Good evening. Welcome to the slippery case of the sabotage slide, created by Gator Education. This is the slippery case of the sabotage slide. So we are going to analyze a crime scene. The first thing that you need to do is get this stapled packet. I'm going to read through and give you some helpful hints as you listen along. Crime scene protocol. Start here. Crime scene protocol is the order of investigation when a crime has occurred. Each crime scene is different and may require a different approach to processing the scene. However, there is a basic crime scene protocol that should be followed in all crime scenes. These basic tasks are as follows. First, we have the interview. Interview is the first step in processing a crime scene. They must interview the first officer at the scene or the victim to determine the theory of the case. Basically, what happened, what crime took place, and how the crime was committed. Second, you're going to examine. The crime scene specialist examines the scene to determine if the theory of the case is proven by what they observe. They look for evidence, point of entry and point of exit, and they note the general layout of the crime scene. Third, photograph. Photographing the crime scene to record a pictorial view of what the scene looks like and to record items of possible evidence. Crime scene photographs are generally taken in two categories: overall views and items of evidence. 4. Sketch. A rough sketch is completed by the crime scene technician to demonstrate the layout of the crime scene or to identify the exact position of the deceased victim. That could be a dead person, or evidence within the crime scene. A sketch may not be completed on every case. However, some form of sketching usually occurs in most cases. For example, on a fingerprint lift card, to identify exactly where it was recovered. 5th, process. The last step in the crime scene technician will process the crime scene for evidence, both physical, like actual items that you can take, or testimonial evidence. And this is like what people say about what happened. It is the crime scene technician's responsibility to identify, evaluate, and collect physical evidence from the crime scene for further analysis by the crime laboratory. This protocol should be used in all crime scenes, whether the crime scene is recovered, stolen vehicle, or an armed robbery. Sorry, I went a little fast. So, we have to process the evidence. That means understanding the motive. Okay? Or motive means why someone did what they did. The first step then is logic. Who took a bite out of the chocolate bar? What can the bullet holes in the window tell us? Sticky fingers have been found on the broken vase. What kind of pen was used to write the ransom note? Answering these questions is what forensic science is all about. Before solving a mystery, we must practice the skills needed in analyzing evidence. One of the most important tools in finding solutions is logic. You need to use your brain and weigh all the evidence. Not every crime is as it appears, and sometimes not every piece of evidence paints an accurate picture. You have to look for what makes sense. Motive. People commit crimes for lots of reasons. Each reason or motive is different with every crime. Some people may even have more than one reason they committed a crime. Some of the most common reasons people commit crimes might be shocking, but it always makes sense to the offender. Some of the top criminal motives include control, greed, intolerance, vengeance, jealousy, addiction, and mental disorders. So, what is the case and what actually happened? Well, welcome to Splattertown, the best water park in Indianapolis. Splattertown is a splashy water park where kids of all ages can enjoy all sorts of watery fun. There is an octopus slide with octonozzles that shoot water at random times, a splatter zone for water gun play, an off-the-hook kiddie pool, and best of all, one of the tallest water slides in the country, the Squidly Express. The Squidly Express opened this year in May, and Splattertown is enjoying its best season ever. On Tuesday morning, much to the dismay of Splattertown's top mechanic, Mr. Musclefish, learned that the Squidly Express had been sabotaged. He was doing a morning test run at 9:50 a.m. and discovered that someone filled the water pipes leading to the slide with some sort of ink or paint. When he turned on the water, all that filled the slide was dark purple fluid that stained the entire attraction. He immediately contacted Shelby Sheppel, the new general manager. Shelby met him at the slide and upon seeing the damage called the police. The water park was shut down. Detectives arrived on the scene. Mr. Musclefish informed the detective that there were not any reports of problems with the ride from the night before. As a matter of fact, Shelby talked with the attendant as he shut it down around 8 o'clock the night before. There was no evidence of any forced entry into the park. Gates opened in the morning at 8 a.m. Let's find out who the suspects might be. Use your slippery slide notebook to keep track of information so you can make logical deductions. We're going to use the crime scene protocol, so it's up to you to solve the case and get to the bottom of the sabotage slide. The next paper that you see has a chart in it like this, and we will be coming back to this chart. At the very top of the chart, not seen in the slide, are some slippery slide notes. So this helps us determine what, who, where, why, when, and how this happened. So obviously, what happened? Someone destroyed the new slide in Splattertown by putting ink in the water pipes. The park was forced to shut down. Who? The owners of Splattertown are the victims because their property has been damaged. The suspects, as you see below, are Shelby, Sandy, Spike, Judd, Peachy, and Bubbles. Where did this happen? At Splattertown, of course. Why? That's for you to find out. When? It happened between 8 a.m. and 9:50 a.m. And how? Again, for you to find out. So, as we proceed, you need to first think about the motive. Did they have motive? Did they have a reason or maybe an attitude that they would commit this crime? And then, after we determine that, we need to find out if they had an opportunity. So that means, were they able to get out? Were they wearing certain clothes, or did they have ink stains on their hands? We have to look at the evidence and find out. So our first clue is a newsletter. If you haven't already, go get one. the newsletter. So here we are going to determine if these people had motive. As part of the crime scene protocol, it is your job to seek a motive. Who would have reason to want to sabotage the new slide at Splattertown? We're going to read through the monthly newsletter for information. Who has a motive? Can you eliminate anyone that might not have a motive? The monthly Indianapolis newsletter, the April edition. Indianapolis Fair is coming to town. Applicants are now being accepted for part-time positions at the Indianapolis Fair. Former Splattertown employee Spike Slinger is managing the Kiddie Zone this year and said that they saw a decline in attendance last year. They are hoping that more residents will support the fair. Spike believes the fair has much more to offer than other local attractions and wants all families to know that the new snail mail ride is going to be a great addition, along with the Kiddie Zone's other 3 rides. Peachy Pinkler agreed. She used to work at Splattertown as well and said the fair will be much more fun and safer as well. She stressed that unlike other amusement parks, they ran safety tests 3 times a day. Families could be guaranteed a safe time at the fair. New ride set to open in May. Hang on, there's a new ride coming to Splattertown. Billed as the tallest and longest water slide in the country, the Squidly Express is anticipated to be a very popular attraction this summer. Newly appointed General Manager Shelby Sheppel was as excited to share the details of the ride as she was to say how proud she was to be managing the park this year. She wanted to remind everyone that record crowds are anticipated. Get your annual passes now. Protest held in support of closing water park. Indianapolis reporters were updated about a future protest being planned as the opening of Splattertown approaches. Organizer San Diego was interviewed and made this statement. This water park is not good for our community. Children are being dropped off with no parent supervision. It's becoming a free-for-all. They are loud and unruly and leave the property a mess. Our property values have gone down because of this water park. We are fighting to shut it down and build a new library. Joining Sandy's efforts is Bubbles Blowfish. Her boyfriend was a confessed amusement park junkie. She believes the community would be better off with a library as well. Letters to the editor. Dear editor, I love this town, but I have to report that the local water park's newest addition appears to be very dangerous. I would like citizens to be aware of the dangers of riding such extreme attractions. Several injuries have occurred on rides, just like the new Squidly Express. Neighbors, do your research before you allow your children on such dangerous rides. Signed, a concerned neighbor, Judd Jalango. So now, if you keep your newsletter beside you, and then also have the motive page and opportunity page next to you, we are going to fill in. I'm going to help you get started here. Okay. So, based on what we just read, Shelby Sheppel is the general manager of the new water park of Splattertown. And so she's very excited and is really wanting people to come to the park. So does she have motive? No. So we're going to put a no here. San Diego. San Diego, she was one of the protesters. And if you protest something, that means that you are against it. So I'm going to put a yes here because she has motive. She doesn't like the water park. And along with her was Bubbles Blowfish. So I'm going to put a yes here that Bubbles didn't want the water park either, that they have motive. Spike Slinger. Spike Slinger is the former Splattertown employee, meaning he used to work at the water park, but he doesn't anymore. And so I don't know if he got fired or whether he left, but now he works for the fair, and the fair is against it. So he kind of doesn't like Splattertown. So we're going to put a yes here. And along with him was Peachy Pinkler. And she also said, yeah, the fair is going to be better. Last is Judd Jalango, and he was telling everybody to stay away from the water park. So he also has motive. Okay. So the only one that really doesn't have motive is Shelby Sheppel, who is in charge of the water park. Okay. This is the end of part 1. You may continue on with part 2.